What's up, everybody? I'm so happy to get this time with you today. Whenever we explain something or communicate a concept by liking it to something else, what is it called? A metaphor. Surprise. You're going to be surprised. Bearing little resemblance, but our familiarity with one allows us to gain an understanding of the other. Metaphors are certainly symbols, and as so, you can create emotional intensity even more quickly, completely, than the traditional words that we use. Fascinating. Wow. Certainly transform us instantaneously if you understand them to the core. As humans, we constantly think and speak in metaphors, guys. So as often people speak in being stuck in a rock and a hard place, right? Their heads above water. Now, don't you think you'd be more stressed if you thought about dealing with your challenge in terms of struggling to keep your head above water rather than climbing the ladder to success? Right? Would you feel more differently about a test if you talked about sailing through it than flailing it? All right? Would your perception of time change if you talked about crawling rather than flying through it? Metaphors carry more meaning and emotional intensity, and in order to understand metaphors, we must understand symbols. What creates a more immediate impact? The word Christian or the image of a cross? If you're like many people, the cross is going to have and produce more immediate positive emotions. It's literally nothing but two intersecting lines, but has the power to communicate a standard and a way of life to millions of people. Now take that cross, twist it into a swastika, and contrast it with the word Nazi, which has more power to influence you negatively. Which, again, if you're like most people, the swastika will, see how I say that? The swastika will tend to produce stronger sensations more quickly than the word itself. Throughout human history, symbols have been employed to trigger emotional responses, shape man's behavior, and many things to serve. Symbols are sounds, objects, actions, and of course words. If your words are symbolic, then metaphors are heightened symbols. Okay? One of the primary ways we learned is through metaphors. Learning is the process of making new associations in your minds, creating new meaning, and metaphors are ideally suited for this. When we don't understand something, a metaphor provides a way of seeing how what we don't understand is likened to something that we do understand. So listen to this. The metaphor helps us link, right? The metaphor helps us link up relationships. So if you understand X, right? Listen to this. If you understand X, suddenly we understand Y, right? So if X is like Y, say this. If X is like Y and you understand X, well, now we all of a sudden understand Y. And a good example, right? Someone tries to explain electricity to you by throwing around terms like ohms, amperage, wattage, resistors, diodes, amplifiers, capacitors, you name it, right? They'll totally confuse you because it's likely you have no understanding of these words, no references for them, and therefore it's difficult for you to understand a relationship between them. But what if I explained electricity to you by comparing it to something that you are familiar with, right? So you picture a pipe, right? Picture a pipe. And if I said, right, have you ever seen water running through a pipe? You'd say yes, right? Then I'd say, okay, now this is what I'd say. What if there's a little flap that could slow, right, down the water going through the pipe? And that little flap is the resistor, right? That's the same thing that the resistor does in the electrical unit. Would you know what a resistor is? Right? You bet. And you know it instantly because I told you how this was like something you already understood. Metaphors Metaphors can be powerful. They can empower and expand us and enrich our experiences of life. Unfortunately, though, if we're not careful, when we do use metaphors, we instantaneously adopt many limiting beliefs that come with it. And I'll talk more about metaphors in the next video. Drop a like, share. Guys, I appreciate your comment, saves, supporting my channel. Very grateful. I'm trying to add value, as much value as possibly as one can possibly add to other leaders who can multiply value to others. And God knows that our younger generation need to build the faculties of the mind in a way where they are not surrendering emotional control and unable to think greater than how they feel, because when feelings become the means of thinking, we're conjuring up past events to validate our present upset, and we have to think greater than how we feel. We have to be defining ourselves by a vision of the future, right? And we need to know how to have gratitude for not just the things we have, but for the emotion that the experience of the future that produces the emotion, and we draw that into the present moment and really stop living and thinking in the past, guys. We must, in order to take control of our lives and give ourselves 100%, so we can give our children 100 and even 10%, you know? And so everything rises and falls on leadership. Trust is the foundation of leadership. Okay, you can be as success-driven as possible, but your success determination is always going to bump up against your potential, your standards, okay? Level of your potential, the level of your leadership, okay? Your influence to other people, not to be confused with popularity. But the more you raise the lid on your leadership level, you're going to start seeing so much happening in your life that you're going to drop jaws. Anyhow, so much love to everybody. Like, comment, share, and drop a like. Thank you very much. Peace out.